The San Francisco 49ers beating the brakes off the Dallas Cowboys for everyone across the country, across the world to see in prime time. We're giving out game balls, breaking it down. How are the 49ers this good? Are the 49ers this good? Are the Cowboys this bad? What's going on right now after week 5? Coming at you right now, Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate all the everydayers out there. See everyone fired up in the post-game chat already. Looking to get into this one. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel, official sports book of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Croc, are the 49ers this good? Are the Dallas Cowboys? I made a joke earlier, and it was basically, we still don't know if the 49ers are good because they haven't played anyone. That's what it looked like. This looked like run-of-the-mill Niners, great team playing against any old team, not the Dallas Cowboys, not the rival Dallas Cowboys, not the team that's supposed to have the next best defense in the NFL, not the team that have been beating down just about everybody but the Arizona Cardinals so far this year. This was a whooping, Croc. This was something that wasn't really close from jump as the 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys 42-10.
You know, I think it showed that there's different kind of classes right now going on. And there are certain teams that are trying to figure out who they are and potentially how far they can go. All right. But the 49ers clearly aren't in that class. The 49ers are in the class that's different than that. And that's what I didn't expect it to that extent. I thought the Cowboys were in that class as well. You know, when we talked about it with the Locked On Cowboys host, there was 3 teams: 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles, and Dallas Cowboys. I think what the 49ers showed tonight is there might only be 2 teams, 49ers and Philadelphia Eagles. Everyone else has to prove that they can try to play to the level of the 49ers or potentially the Eagles. But where the 49ers are, especially if they get up for a game, it is going to be extremely difficult to play at the level that they are capable of reaching.
A lot of folks asking if your brother's okay right now. Is the family chat getting a little bit slow on those responses right now, Croc? How are things going there? Because I know you were turned up from this game. Anybody who's on Twitter saw Croc a little bit earlier on having a lot of fun getting fired up for this game. And it was one of those games. It's a primetime game, right? Everyone's up for it. And how deflating must that have been for Cowboys fans that realized this game was not going to go their way very early?
They realized it pretty much right away. 49ers marched down. They scored a touchdown. Shout out to George Kittle, 3 touchdowns on the game. We saw, obviously, Kyle Juszczyk be a huge part of the 49ers offense. You and I, we've been talking about that. And as far as his the value in Kyle Juszczyk and what he's capable of giving you, the 49ers gave you a full dose of all of that. But as far as Dallas Cowboy fans go, and my brother and my guy Devin Mays, shout out to my guy D Mays, he's in the chat as well. He actually went to the game. I told him, bro, you wasted your money. You wasted your money. You paid hundreds of dollars to go and watch the Cowboys lose 42-10. It was a beatdown. And the group chat is pretty quiet. When you get demolished to that extent, you don't even have anything to say back. And they're realistic for the most part. Sometimes they can be homers, and they felt like they had a chance. But when you lose 42-10, it's clear the 49ers are in a different stratosphere than what you are in. So the group chat right now, and I've been checking the phone. I've been checking the old iPhone right now. Their tune and their vibe is drastically different. It became very clear to them that, okay, we got a lot of work to do if we want to even try to compete with the likes of a San Francisco 49ers team. And we talked with our Locked On Cowboys host. And this was all about, fine-tuning and figuring out where you were and building up to the postseason because we know who's going to be there. I think the Cowboys will still be there. But even when they get there, they know that there's a hierarchy, and it starts with the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, that's what's crazy about this. I think the Cowboys are a pretty good team, and I think they're a top 5 team in the NFC. And maybe they're not on the level of the 49ers. Maybe they're not on the level of the Philadelphia Eagles, but they're in that next tier if they're not. And, with maybe the Detroit Lions. I don't even know what other teams are going to be in that tier right now in the NFC, right? But that's just how good the 49ers are, because this is a good team. This is a playoff team, the Dallas Cowboys are. And the 49ers thumped them in every way. And one of the big things that stood out to me in this game is the Cowboys. One thing they did do was a good job of slowing down Christian McCaffrey. A lot of people talking about in the MVP conversation for the 49ers this year, for the entire league this year. 19 carries for McCaffrey, only 51 yards, 2.7 yards per carry. He did have the nice touchdown run. Tough run there for the touchdown. It didn't matter. Brock Purdy is the MVP of this team. Brock Purdy is the MVP maybe of this league, Croc. Passing, 252 yards. This wasn't like a high volume passing game either. He was just throwing touchdowns every half dozen times he threw the ball. 4 touchdown passes for Brock Purdy in this game, a 144.4 passer rating. 3 of those touchdown passes going to George Kittle on the only 3 passes he caught in this game, including to kick things off on the opening drive, and a nice little trick play in there too, which is fun to see from the 49ers to try to, get a little bit more on the board against the Dallas Cowboys. So game ball number 1 easily to me goes to Brock Purdy, and I'm a skeptical human being by nature, and we talked about it in the offseason. Okay, small sample. Let's see what he looks like. The league has a book on him coming off the elbow injury, passes this test, passes that test, passes every single test, Croc. We're believers already. We've talked about this a lot, but I think nationally, primetime game here, Dallas Cowboys, good defense. You hear from some members of the media, some people now and again, they're like, Brock's good, but you got to take the but out of it. Brock Purdy is that dude, Croc. Brock Purdy is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I don't know where you rank him. I don't think we need to rank him. We just need to recognize how good he is. And right now, Brock Purdy is the 49ers MVP. He is running this offense like it was meant to be run. It's pretty unbelievable.
Brock Purdy is baby Drew Brees. And that's the best way to put it, right? When you think of over the last 20 years, like the top quarterbacks, Drew Brees might, out of the top guys, the elite guys, might be the last guy that you mentioned, but you just have to mention him. And I think Brock Purdy is kind of putting himself into that category where even when you watch him, a lot like Drew Brees, you don't see a lot of special throws, right? Like even today, what would you say was, oh man, did you see that throw that Brock Purdy made? And I think, again, because when you think of elite quarterbacks off the top of your head, you think of all these throws that are just so special, other guys can't make. Well, Drew Brees, that really wasn't his game. It was about being very efficient to the highest level and really running a Sean Payton offense. And when I look at Brock Purdy and what he's doing, there aren't these throws that are man, a lot of guys can't make this throw. Maybe everybody can make it, but not everybody does it the way that Brock Purdy does it. And if you were skeptical of Brock Purdy to any extent, as I was, and a lot of other people as well, I understand it. But what we're seeing right now is a guy that's running an offense so efficiently to the highest level. We see guys open, right? Even the touchdowns from George Kittle is he's open. But he clearly always finds the open guy and always makes the right throw. And if it were 1 game or 2 game, I would understand. Then you see in the off game, whatever. We're seeing consistency at an elite level. And that's what he continues to give you. So when you talk about MVP, and I think it was hard for Drew Brees to win that MVP award, it might be hard for Purdy to win it as well, just because of how he plays. But the way he's running this offense, you can't name 5 quarterbacks that are running their offense more efficiently than Brock Purdy. And we saw it again when he had 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, in what was supposed to be a big-time challenge against the Dallas Cowboys.
ISU 5 Dre. I see. Is that Iowa State University? And he's not buying the Purdy stuff. He says, stop. Birdie balled but he ain't the MVP of the team nor the league. Come on, Peacock. I was like, I don't know who you think is playing better right now. Like, what do you even? I would trade 2 Christian McCaffreys for 1 Brock Purdy right now on the 49ers. We saw it in this game. Christian McCaffrey did not lead this 49ers team to victory, and he's good, and it's nothing against Christian McCaffrey. Give me Brock Purdy all day long. Like, it's not even close for a team MVP, I think, right now, as good as McCaffrey is, because you've seen how he can distribute. Like, the 49ers have playmakers. If one goes down, they have other guys. They can go other directions with it. I don't know. I wouldn't want to see this team without Brock Purdy right now. Then you look at other quarterbacks in the league. Mahomes isn't playing at his normal level. He's having a rough go of it right now, as good as the Kansas City Chiefs are. They're going to be out there. Brock Purdy's not having games where he's throwing 3 interceptions like Josh Allen did. Who's playing better football than him right now?
The 49ers offense has scored 30-plus points, including 35 last week, 42 this week. They've scored 30-plus points in every single game. So at some point, like, if it's just the team around him, typically you would see some kind of drop-off within 5 games. You'd see a game where we saw even with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Let's go back to Jimmy Garoppolo. And I want to say last year, when you traded for Christian McCaffrey, and then by the time he took over as a starter, like, I don't think the 49ers have lost a regular season game since then. And that includes with Christian McCaffrey, right? Or Jimmy Garoppolo. But even then, there was a game against the New Orleans Saints where I want to say, what was the final score? 13-0 or 14-0? Like, nothing crazy, right? And that showed, like, the significance of everybody that's involved, whether it's defense and guys like Christian McCaffrey, whatever. Brock Purdy is not even having those kind of games. That is where, oh man, it's 13-0. Like, you can see how much everybody else contributes. It's like, 42-0. So, like, I get it. I get it from the standpoint of being skeptical. You and I were both like, okay, like, let's hold on. Like, let's wait and see. And, I think you would want Trey Lance because he gives you the best chance of reaching the pinnacle and he has these special characteristics. But what we've seen from Brock Purdy over this extent, and it's still, quote unquote, a small sample size, it hasn't mattered. He has played this offense, ran it to the highest level that you can run an offense. And this was supposed to be the team that can challenge that, the number 2 defense in the NFL. And they didn't. It just continued to look very easy. And you could say, well, the Cowboys aren't good. Like, no, the Cowboys are a good team. They're going to win a lot of games. Cowboys are going to win 11, 12 games this year. But 49ers-led Brock Purdy made them look like they don't belong on the field. He had a big hand in that.
All right. Brock Purdy gets a game ball for sure in this one. More on this win for the 49ers, decisive 42-10 win over the Dallas Cowboys. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. No matter what happens on that first $5 bet, you get $200 more to bet on. So if you've ever thought of joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on that action. And you can use those $200 in bonus bets to bet on spreads, player props, over-unders. If you bet on the 49ers to cover the number in this one, you covered that one pretty easily. The app is super easy to use and safe. I love both the app and the web interface. You can find all the bets you want in all the sports you want, not just NFL football. Build your own parlays, all of it at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off this, I don't know, what the second half of the NFL season. Like, we're getting into the NFL season now. We know a lot about these teams, and we know the 49ers are very good. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Okay, George Kittle's got to get a game ball in this one. George Kittle's usage has been down this year. And one of the things that happened when Brock Purdy took over last year is Kittle was a touchdown machine, and we kind of hadn't seen that much this year. And I loved seeing Kittle be a part of the game plan. And that's one of the things that stands out to me in this game. So, Croc, I'm sure you agree, game ball to George Kittle. He does a lot of little things every week. to help the 49ers win in the run game, in the pass game. But I love this type of win for the 49ers because it's not a one player thing, right? Okay, you did what you had to do to shut down this player. Okay, guess what? This guy gets 3 touchdowns. Deebo Samuel's involved. Kyle Juszczyk gets a touchdown. Layered throws to Brandon Ayuk, right? In week number 1, they used Minkah Fitzpatrick to try to take George Kittle out of the offense. Well, what happened? Okay, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon, right? There's just how do you stop this football team? You can't take one thing away because you're just that much more likely to get beat by everybody else. And you can't play the 49ers straight up because they will beat you. And Brock Purdy will find that open man. So anyway, Brock Purdy already got his game ball. Giving one to George Kittle. Love seeing the red zone Kittle show up in this game.
Yeah, and for the 49ers, it's always going to come down to that, right? You talked about the red zone a few different times. And, me as someone on PrizePicks who went with the 49ers kicker, and I took the higher or over on his, kicking attempts. It was supposed to be like 2 made field goals. Well, he wasn't able to get that because the 49ers continued to score touchdowns. And a big part of that was George Kittle. And we've talked a lot about the usage of George Kittle, not quite there. But what we saw today with his, 3 touchdown game, how much of it was just 100% in rhythm? I understand the trick play clearly was designed to go to George Kittle, but outside of that, I felt like a lot of it was just kind of finding who's going to be the open guy. And again, we just talked a whole lot about Brock Purdy and some of the things that he brings and how he makes it look easy. But part of that also is just, finding George Kittle, who's wide open in the end zone. And I think he had a bigger part in the touchdowns than even George Kittle did. It wasn't like, and again, I watch a lot of football. I watched every game today since 6:30 a.m., 6:30 Pacific. That was when the London game came on. I watched every snap of that game. I watch every game. I love watching football. When you watch how a lot of guys win and score touchdowns, it's because they have to win their one-on-one rep, and they win this route, and like that guy is the main target in that rep. Well, with the 49ers, it's really more so just about finding the guy who's going to be open. And Brock Purdy does a terrific job of finding that guy. So today, 3 different times, it happened to be George Kittle. Again, one was designed on the flea flicker and all that. But ultimately, I think Brock Purdy had a big hand in that. So George Kittle, 3 touchdown day, that's terrific. But we saw George Kittle's touchdown go up towards the second half of last season. There was one thing that was pretty consistent with that. It was Brock Purdy who was that quarterback.
Mm-hmm. David says Taylor Swift chose the wrong tight end. I do believe George Kittle is happily married, so I don't think that's going to be a problem for George. But yeah, I didn't like seeing that injury for Travis Kelce today. I think he did come back in the game, or he's at least on the sideline. So anyway, George Kittle absolutely gets a game ball in this one. Got to give a game ball, Croc, to Fred Warner, who was all over the place in the 49ers defense, as he usually is. He filling up the stat line, 8 tackles. He had a sack. He had a tackle for loss, a pass defense. He had an interception in this game, like kind of one of everything for Fred Warner, who's always one of the 49ers' best players. And he's just all over. What they asked him to do, they highlighted that play where it was a miss out of bounds to Brandon Cooks the deep ball shot. And look, he had Fred Warner beat on the play. But what I think about not so much is, George Kittle, this great coverage on this one play. He was beat. But what the 49ers asked him to do, this is a 4-3 dude. This is a 4-3 dude from 209. And you're asking a middle linebacker to cover this guy 40 yards down the field. So it's a high level of difficulty. And Fred Warner's up to it every single week and making plays. And they ask him to do more than probably any linebacker in the NFL.
They asked him to do a lot, and I think he's up for the challenge. When you look at when the 49ers even took him, again, I watched Fred Warner coming out as a prospect. I'm like, okay, he's kind of this like slot nickel guy, off ball, outside linebacker. 49ers draft him, and immediately he's an interior or inside linebacker playing next to Reuben Foster, who's supposed to be the future. And then he has the green dot on his helmet. So it's like, wow, okay, they really, really like this guy at that inside linebacker position. Then you see the athleticism and cover skills really take over. Then you see the physicality in which he plays. And one thing that I really have noticed with the 49ers, people make light of the top 100 players. And I understand that the players, quote unquote, kind of picked that whole thing, but they had the most out of anybody. And on back-to-back drives, I really want to say like three straight drives. You saw Nick Bosa sack. He's in that top 100. And then you saw 2 drives in a row where Fred Warner made plays, whether it was punching out a ball and forcing a fumble and then getting an interception. But because of how he plays and the guy that has a high motor and a certain level of physicality, he always puts himself in position to either make a play or reap the benefits of someone else potentially making a play. So, Fred Warner, we can't say enough positive things about the impact that he has on games. But clearly, when you have those caliber of players, you want to see them make impact plays, and he definitely did that multiple times today.
Robert says, "Bring on Philly! Can't wait for payback. We gotta wait. That's week 13. We got well over the month before that game comes. So you don't want to be looking past teams in the NFL. 49ers got to keep winning games and stay strong and stay on point. I want to talk in a second, Croc, about maybe peaking too early where the 49ers are right now. And some more game balls, I think, to give out as well in this 42-10 victory over the Dallas Cowboys next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It is super easy. I'm on LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn. All of the talent that you're looking for, just like any football team is, your small business is looking for the best talent, right? You want those first-round draft picks, and they're already on LinkedIn as well. So you just add your job to your business's purple hashtag hiring frame right on your LinkedIn profile, and it spreads the word that you're hiring. Then simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on just the right candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Croc, I don't know if we should give it to Colton McKivitz just because it signifies the one guy that we had worries about on the 49ers offensive line more than the others, really all season long coming into the season. Micah Parsons, 0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits, 1 hurry in the entire game. And he was everywhere. He didn't line up on Colton McKivitz the whole game. He was lining up left, right, middle. He was moving around. The 49ers did a phenomenal job. Like the number one thing, we're doing keys to victory, right? It was don't get down early, right? You don't want to let the Cowboys get an early lead because that's what they're trying to do. And then you might have to throw your out of a hole. At this point, I don't think we have to be super worried if Brock Purdy has to throw out of a hole, even though he never has to for this 49ers team right now. But the big one was after that, you got to stop Micah Parsons. You can't let him feast on you. You can't have the 3 sacks, strip sacks like TJ Watt in week 1. How did the 49ers block him up so well? And who do you give it to? The entire offensive line? Do you give it to just Colton McKivitz? Because I think the 49ers front absolutely deserves a game ball in this one.
You saw him make a big play. I want to say it was on the 2nd or 3rd drive where he had a nice tackle for loss and then forced the 49ers into a punting situation. And I remember going on Twitter and talking about it. We know he's special. We know he's able to do big time things. He's a special type prospect player, and the Dallas Cowboys have him. He's arguably, the best, or if not one of the best defensive players in the league. But, you have to give a game ball to the 49ers offensive line, specifically the right side, for just keeping him quiet. Most of the game he was rushing off of that right side, and McKivitz and Spencer Burford, 2 of the guys that I think I was probably the most worried about heading into this game. I think they did a terrific job just quieting him. And that's my expectations for them. I talked about it with even the secondary, right? If you invest a ton in a certain position, then I might expect more out of that spot, right? Like the defensive line. They've invested so much in the defensive line, whether it's Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargraves. Like, I expect them to produce at a very high level. But when you get to the back end of guys, and you look at Delmador Lenore and Ambry Thomas and Gibson and Hufanga, if they play extremely well, which we've seen a lot of good play out of Hufanga, and we got an interception out of Gibson tonight, like, cool. But if not, then, well, of course, look at the capital that you put into those guys. But when you look at the offensive line, it's the same thing. Look at your right side of the line. Like, where was McKivitz drafted? Where was Spencer Burford drafted? Not very high. The center, you got him in free agency. Nobody else wanted him. So when they do just silence a guy to the extent of not getting a sack or not impacting the game to where he just really throws a wrench in everything, I think they did a terrific job and definitely deserve a game ball. So shout out to the right side of the offensive line. 49er fans, me included, you as well, we always bring up that right side, but they've held it down in multiple games, silencing a guy like 99 from the Rams. We didn't hear from him. He didn't have a sack. I thought they did a terrific job tonight as well.
Croc, talk to me about the defensive backfield, because I feel like a game ball goes somewhere over there. After Micah Parsons, what's the other name we mentioned, right? CeeDee Lamb. And during the first half, I was like, is CeeDee Lamb even in the game? He was a non-factor. 4 catches for 40 yards or something like that. I think it was his final stat line. 4 catches for 49 yards.
Yeah, I took the higher on his yardage on PrizePicks, and I thought this was a guy that was going to have 60-plus yards just because of how they try to force the ball to him. But the 49ers, they clearly had a plan on how to just kind of throw him off. And everywhere he was, they put a body on him, made sure that he was getting touched, whether it was over the middle, whether it was on the outside. And even when they tried vertically pushing shots, I saw them try to throw the ball down the field to Michael Gallup. He's a guy that definitely is a vertical threat. Even if he's not an every down, high volume guy that we're going to throw the ball to a ton, okay, he don't have to be that guy, but vertically pushing down the field, he is that guy. 49ers did a terrific job of erasing him, erasing CeeDee Lamb, erasing Brandon Cooks, who I thought potentially might be a issue vertically pushing down the field as well. They did a really good job with all of that. So I think, the game ball has to go really to the entire secondary, because it's not one guy that you're saying, all right, you are the best corner on the team, you have to follow this guy around. But it was everyone working as a collective group, and I think they did that at a very high level, taking guys out of the game. Like, if I ask you right now, how many catches did Brandon Cooks have? Was it 1 on like maybe a screen pass? How many catches did Gallup have? Maybe 1, like 8 yards? I mean, like, they didn't have anything.
Yeah, I think Cooks was a rushing attempt, right? Maybe it was 2 screens, one, because look, I'm looking at the stats right now. There was 1 rush for 6 yards, 1 catch for 7 yards. Were they both screen passes and one was just a backwards pass?
Right. Yeah. Something like
that's
that.
for Brandon Cooks. Yeah. So, I mean, just did a number on all of them. Tony Pollard, 8 carries for 29 yards. They had to abandon the run because they were down so much, but the 49ers did a good job there, not letting them, run the ball early anyway. So, phenomenal job. Maybe just give a game ball to Steve Wilkes. By the way, we got to see Jair Brown on the field. Like, he hasn't even hardly played for the 49ers. He's been on special teams, but you never see 27 on the field because the 49ers were up so big, and Kyle Shanahan was so confident in this one, unlike other weeks, that he put almost the entire fourth quarter, he had the backups in. Sam Darnold's in there taking snaps. Jordan Mason, 10 carries for 69 yards. Jordan Mason rolls into the game and rattles off a 26-yard touchdown run like nothing. It was funny because it was like the drive summary at the end when you score. It was like 1 play, 26 yards, 6 seconds. Like, that was the entire drive, right? So, I mean, I love seeing the backups in the game. That's how thoroughly the 49ers beat the Cowboys, is almost the entire fourth quarter was the 49ers playing backups and getting guys some rest, which is must needed, getting ready for the Cleveland Browns here too. So, I mean, just top to bottom. I mean, you could probably, as has been mentioned in the chat tonight, Croc, you could probably give a game ball to just about anybody in this one. Any other game balls you want to give out?
You can probably give a game ball to anybody, but again, I want to kind of give a game ball to the coaching staff, because to me, that was the thing that probably stood out even more so than having terrific players. The 49ers coaching staff put their playmakers and their guys that are the high-level guys in position to exceed more than Dallas Cowboys. And I walked away from this game. We talked about it about, how you win or how you lose doesn't make a difference. And prior to the game, I said, it doesn't really make a difference. You're going to see these guys in the postseason. But I think when you lose 42-10 and to the way that the Dallas Cowboys did, it definitely makes a difference. And what it let me know is that the players that the 49ers have and the way that they're able to execute and the level that they are, the Cowboys they're just not fair. So we gave a game ball to a lot of players. I think we definitely have to give the game ball to the coaching staff and how they had these guys prepared, the level in which they played at, and how walking away from this game right now, it's Sunday, October 8th, 9:30 Pacific time. I feel like the Dallas Cowboys just cannot mess with the 49ers. And they're going to have a lot of figuring out to do over the time. And it's good to have that game early on. Week five, you have that game. And it's like, all right, everything from now on, we have to be focused on excelling at such a high level or playing at a high level or trying to execute at a level to where we can beat the San Francisco 49ers when or if we have to play them in the postseason. That should be their goal. But that is only the goal because of how well the 49ers are coached.
Last note for me here. We've given game balls to the offense and defense, but the special teams deserves one as well. And we're going to have the Winks Wish Watch on Wednesday's episode, our Winky Wednesday episode, and he'll have the exact numbers for Mitch Wishnowsky. But the punting game, 2 more down inside the 20. There was no field goals attempted because the 49ers were hitting the end zone every single time, but Moody, a perfect 6 for 6. Moody's been perfect all year, right?
Yeah, hasn't missed a field goal or an extra point.
And he didn't kick any kickoffs out of bounds either in this game. So I think we got to throw a game ball that way at the special teams too. The kicking game was solid. Like about the only weird thing in the kicking game was Ambry Thomas, I think on the first punt return, didn't block anybody. And Ray got hit immediately when he did not expect it. But aside from that, I mean, the 49ers just top to bottom. We're a better football team on this night than the Dallas Cowboys. Beat them on offense, beat them on defense, beat them on special teams.
I did have one more thing I wanted to talk about real quick. And while watching the broadcast, they talked about Christian McCaffrey. And they said that Christian McCaffrey is so hard on himself. And his mom talked about how he doesn't like hearing about he did good. He thinks that that's kind of bad, right? Like he wants to excel at a high level. And they talked about, and they put it on him. But for all the parents out there watching right now or listening to this podcast, it's not about him. It's about your parenting. And when I listened to him prior to all this, and talking about what his dad, Ed McCaffrey, it instilled in him, it was this level of excellence. It was this level of how we were going to prepare. He talked about on Friday nights when he was in high school and, he was getting ready for a game. He didn't want him wearing jeans because the jeans were too heavy and they were going to tire his legs out prior to the game, right? Like that level of detail. He would talk about how his dad would punish him if they got tackled by their jersey when they were in Pee Wee football, and so there was this level of expectation that was set on them. And I think he has carried that level of expectation on how he prepares on everything from then on out. So he comes off to me as someone who would excel in football or whatever he decided to do. But it's not just, and again, shout out to his mom. She gave him the credit. It's not him. It's what the mom and dad instilled in Christian McCaffrey to why he prepares to a certain level today. And I think that's obviously why he is the player that he is. Genetics has a part in that with just, being able to exceed at such a high level. But they have a big hand in that.
Not all the kids in that family are exceeding to his level either. So he does get some credit. Right. But yeah. And he talks about how it wasn't that easy either, right? With in that environment. Because he was held to a certain standard. And yeah, it takes everything top down, just like the 49ers right now, top down are the reason that they're winning football. Randy Gregory, newest 49er, not yet on the field. He'll be on the field next week. Of course, we will have that covered next week. We'll have rewatches. We'll have Winky Wednesday. We'll start turning the page to week 6 as well. A whole lot more coming at you every single day as we do here on Locked On 49ers. Appreciate everybody jumping in the live chat. All the everydayers out there, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Croc and I back tomorrow right here covering those perfect 5-0 San Francisco 49ers.
Subscribe to this video.